It's Wednesday, it's time for First Look, and in keeping with the theme of this week and last week, we're looking at NFTs, and in particular, one specific problem around NFTs, which is you own them, and you don't want to sell them, but they have value and other people want to extract that value as well. And that opens up the market of renting and lending, which up till now has been nearly impossible. Today, we're looking at re-NFT or reNFT. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce it. This is a protocol for lending and renting NFTs. Let's dig in, but after this word from our sponsors.
Don't let high gas costs keep you out of Ethereum. A Balancer, the gas-optimized vault architecture, makes trading cheaper than anywhere else. Liquidity providers can optimize their fee earnings using their dynamic fee system that automatically adjusts to market conditions. You can also use asset managers to lend out idle assets, dramatically increasing your capital efficiency. And because Balancer is an open platform for flexible, automated markets, you can choose from stable pools or weighted pools, and in the future, more designs will be created that we don't even know about yet. Check it out at balancer.fi. You shouldn't have to compromise your privacy to participate in DeFi. With Offshift, you won't have to. Offshift is pioneering private, decentralized finance, or PriFi, with the world's first platform for private, on-chain derivatives and financial applications. Take back control of your privacy and become a PriFi pioneer today. Learn more about what they're building and read the yellow paper at offshift.io. Coming Q1 2022.
So here it is. reNFT brackets NFT. It's an pixelized kind of protocol. It's all pink and blue, and it looks a little childish. But if we scroll down, there are some investors in this. The idea, though, is very, very straightforward. It is you have an NFT, somebody else wants that NFT, you don't want to sell that NFT, so you can rent it. And what it says here is let your stale NFTs generate revenue and rent NFTs temporarily. I've come across this idea in Somnium. So in Somnium, you can own land, you can become a landlord and rent that land to other people who can then develop on it. You never lose ownership of that land, and you can revoke the license to build on that land at any point, which is a really useful piece of functionality because, I mean, being a landowner in a metaverse is actually quite a powerful position to be in, and I don't really want to sell it, but at the same time, I want that land to be developed and to be used. So having that rental facility in Somnium, fantastic. But up until now, I haven't really seen that in the traditional NFT space. So let's have a look at some of the details of this thing. They have a roadmap and they have a token. They have the rent token. Not really interested in that, to be honest. They have a Rarible.com marketplace integration. Well, that is interesting. So they tweeted this out on April the 8th. And it said Rarible will become the first marketplace with the reNFT NFT protocol fully integrated. I'm not sure when that's going to be spun up and actually made real, but it does give you a kind of a hint of the sign of things to come. I don't know if you've been looking at the market in the last couple of weeks, but some of these NFTs have been going through the roof. For a punk, for instance, I don't think it makes a huge amount of sense to rent it. It's one of those things you kind of want to own. Renting it feels a little bit like, I don't know, renting a Gucci bag for the night. Maybe somebody will want to do that. For something like an ape, though, a Bored Ape, when a Bored Ape operates as access to events, it's a club membership. Renting, let's say you go on holiday, you're not going to use that ape for a couple of months. You could rent it to someone who needs it or wants it and wants to gain access to a VIP event or something that's going on. That I can see being a real use case for it. But it does throw up some problems. The tokenomics of the rent token, I don't really see as being that interesting. To be honest, any token that's bolted onto these things, I don't really see the need for it. But hey, you know, they have to earn a living, they have to do their thing, so whatever there. Looking back at the roadmap, Q4, further blockchains, layer 2 integrations, Avalanche, Polkadot, well, that makes sense. Full rental statistics dashboard, live leaderboard showing top renters and lenders. Yeah, I do see renting and lending being a thing. So at the moment, what I'm seeing is people buying ENS domains. So an ENS domain is your .eth address. So I own supermassive.eth. That is my ETH address. And you will see people on Twitter putting their ETH address as a .eth in their Twitter handle. And this is because alphanumeric addresses are difficult to remember. But if you want to send money to me, if you want to send ETH to me, supermassive.eth, pretty easy to remember. So people are starting to speculate on these like URLs back in the day by purchasing .ens addresses. You know, imagine onlyup.eth. Someone would speculate on that and think that might be something that at some point somebody would want to own. We're seeing this with yachts as well. So there, instead of me being a speculator that just sells on a valuable ENS when somebody wants it, I could rent it to you. So I could become a rental house for ENSs. That could be interesting as a secondary market. So the similar thing with valuable club memberships. I could see people renting those out if they're not going to use them, almost like a holiday house. That model seems to make sense to me, and I think there will be huge incentives for people to do that. So we can have a look in the Dapp now and actually go through and have a look at how this might work. So I have to connect my wallet, which I'm going to do now, and I have to say I'm very happy that I've moved everything over to Brave. Google Chrome at some point just started not working anymore. So here we go. So on the rent page, now I can rent, for instance, Stoner Cats. So Stoner Cats is a very interesting example because Stoner Cats are a bunch of NFT collectibles representing cat figures in the Stoner Cats universe and in the Stoner Cats animation. We had the Stoner Cats team on the podcast just last week, so definitely check that video out if you haven't already. And so if I own a Stoner Cat, I can watch the latest episode. Now, the problem I have with video is that it's very easy to rip it. It's very easy for it to be pirated. So that in itself is probably not a good enough reason to want to rent a Stoner Cat. But some people, bless them, want to do things the right way. So they might rent a Stoner Cat in order to be able to watch a specific episode in which a specific star that they particularly like has a cameo. The Stoner Cats universe is going to open up and have more characters involved. Maybe that's the thing. I don't know. And there are other things. So I think further down the list, I saw some interesting ones, which were, here we go. So these tiles, these are tiles that you need to play a kind of Scrabble game. And I can imagine that if there's a particular challenge one week and you need a specific tile, you could rent that tile and maybe, get yourself in the running for a prize for a particular thing. Those kind of things. So as you can see, the way these NFT rentals might work is where an NFT has a particular piece of utility attached to it. So there, might be access to something. It might be the opportunity to win a prize. It might be that you need to, in the instance of lucky mannequins, for instance, you need to own a particular lucky mannequin in order to get a challenge together, and you have 4 of them, and you need a 5th one. You could rent it for the challenge period, and everybody wins because you win a prize. You could share that prize with the person you've rented from. These kind of deals can be done, and if I now go to the lens side, so I can look at, here's a good one, my meta keys. So I have 3 meta keys because I'm a huge fan of what Matty's building at MetaKey. And we had a good long chat a couple of weeks ago. And I think this idea of building effectively an Amex Black for the metaverse. So with benefits that attach, brands are coming on board and distributing value to MetaKey holders. I just think that's a really powerful proposition, particularly given the way that there are so many metaverses and so much value to be transmitted across them. Owning a MetaKey that gives you access to a specific event in the metaverse, I think that's a really powerful thing. And being able to allow somebody who doesn't have one, and if you can't attend, to gain access there, I think that could be really, really powerful. The other thing I have here, which suddenly popped up in my head, was I have a bunch of NFTs on which there are no bot bids. So we know that NFTs are illiquid. We know that it's very difficult to sell them. I own Meow Bits. I own them because I love them. I own them because my kids love them. And I'm one of the very few people in the world that was willing to put a decent amount of ETH into them, but nobody else wants to buy them. There's no volume. These are just very special, specific to me things that I like. But how on earth am I going to realize some value from these? Well, let's say, for instance, I have a Meebit. And Meebits I know do have some interest around them, but let's say my Meebit character puts on a party. And I can say to people, well, yes, you can come to this party, but if you have a Meowbit in your wallet as well, you will get X. You'll get a special performance from, and I can invite a musician to come and we do like a limited, like 20-person, closed concert kind of thing. I could say, if you have a Meowbit in your wallet, you get that as well. So I put on this party as my Meebit, and then the Meowbit. I could then rent people these Meowbits and say, for like this weekend period, you can be part of this thing. That then suddenly gives me a revenue stream for these Meowbits. I don't have to sell them, and I wouldn't want to sell them because that's not the type of asset they are. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do these things, but that starts to make a lot of sense. So if we were to go ahead and say lend now on this asset, this is what pops up. We see the token ID, we see the number, and then we can set a max lend duration, we can set a borrow price, and then we can set the collateral. So as you can imagine, it feels a little bit risky lending your asset to someone. And in return for borrowing it, they have to put up collateral. And you decide what that collateral is going to be. And here's where it gets interesting. Like, we know, for instance, that Bored Apes are valuable. And they're increasingly valuable in the way that punks were. And we don't know what the ceiling on that is because we just don't. Well, nobody does. 10,000 Bored Apes suddenly seems like a very small number. Whereas it used to feel like an enormous number and like nobody really wanted them. Not anymore. So let's say, for instance, I rent my Bored Ape and, the lender, the borrower puts up 10 ETH of collateral, but the price of Bored Apes just goes through the roof. There probably isn't that much need for that renter to give it back. So they might just default on it and take the profit. So you have to be a little bit careful about these things. So I feel like renting and lending NFTs will work best for NFTs that don't have much volume in the market, that don't have a particularly good secondary market or much interest in the secondary market, but will open up access points for people who own them to bolt them on to other services, to allow them to be rented for specific events, specific time points, and generate additional revenue on top as a bolt-on, as a bonus, as an add-on. I don't think they make much sense in a bull market for assets that have a very active secondary market. But what I love about it is that they could indeed make assets that are sitting there doing nothing come alive again. And that's probably a good thing. Now, it is worth scrolling down to the bottom of the page where it says contracts have been thoroughly tested and peer reviewed, but not audited. Use your own risk. So there's an FAQ section, goes through all the different things that you need to do, and it goes through the difference between the different token types as well, because they're not the same. So the 1155 standard and the 721 standard have different rules that are attached to them. Go and read the FAQ page, but again, down the bottom, the contracts were not audited. Exercise caution. All responsibility due to loss bears with the users of the app. Do I feel confident putting a valuable NFT into this protocol right now? No, I do not. But I love the idea. I love the opportunities this opens up, and I love the tertiary market, if you want to call it that will open up as a result of the ability to rent and lend NFTs. I think this is a really important step. I've been looking for it for ages. Let's see where they go. I hope they get an audit. And that was the first look on reNFT. As always, if there's something you would like us to cover, put it in the comments below. And I hope that you got something out of this. NFTs, so hot right now. Peace.